Welcome to the Before You Bet racing preview for Makybe Diva Stakes Day, Group 1 Makybe Diva Stakes Day this Saturday, September 12th, brought to you by PlayUp as always. I'm your host, Tim Geers, joined as always by my trusty partner, Trent Crebbin. We have a huge day ahead of us this Saturday with plenty of good racing in both Sydney and Melbourne. We've got the Group 2 Run to the Rose headlining proceedings at Rosehill in Sydney. And as I've already mentioned, the Group 1 Makybe Diva Stakes headlining the card at Flemington. Trent, how are you going?
Yeah, I'm really good. It's a fat day of racing at Flemington. Every race is going to be good to watch. There's no real weak link on the day. There's some crackers in Sydney as well. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Certainly is a good day of racing. Can't wait to get stuck in. But some of these fields throughout the day, both in Melbourne and Sydney, are a real headache job. It's going to be some pretty long hours putting into the form. But what we'll be doing today is taking you through our best bets for both Rosehill and Flemington. And then we'll take a closer look at the Group 1 Makybe Diva Stakes, which of course is the headline race in Australia this weekend. Now you can already jump on beforeyoubet.com.au and you can find Trent's runner-by-runner preview. It's very comprehensive of the Group 1 Makybe Diva Stakes. So he'll give you his thoughts and selections on every single runner in Saturday's Group 1. As I've mentioned, we're brought to you by PlayUp. So if you are having a bet this Saturday, make sure you jump on playup.com.au and please gamble responsibly. Let's get straight into our best bets of the day. Trent, we're going to start off with you over at Flemington. And your best bet of the day is a horse that you are madly in love with, almost concerning levels. It's race number 3, horse number 1, Arcadia Queen, currently $2.90.
Yeah, it's a bit of a Star Spangled kind of cross lovers thing that we've got going on here with Arcadia Queen. I'm a huge fan of the horse ever since her Perth days. I think she obviously had a few issues. She comes here second up and she's had those feet issues with a bruised hoof and an abscess on her foot there as well. Her recent jump out at Bendigo was not of a horse that has injuries. She was clicked up and shaken along a bit, but she put past that field very, very nicely and did so in good time. I think I saw from a Daily Sectionals article that she ran her last 200 meters, albeit in a jump out, in just over 11 seconds, which is quite fast. When she's not even really given much rein there. So I think here she comes up against Savatiano again, who she lost to in the PB, Lawrence first up. I think she can definitely turn the tables here with that added race fitness. She was coming off a long break there. I think Savatiano got the perfect run there, kind of just behind the leaders, angled out at the right time and just got the bob in. The problem here is the map for Arcadia Queen. She draws barrier 12. I think they'll probably go back. I don't think they'll be last by any stretch, but I think they'll be back in the second half of the field, even if she does jump well, because I think they'll just want to see her go through her gears and show that she's still capable of, producing a high quality run. But I think that she is clearly a better horse than Savatiano at her best. And I think they've made a smart decision, just taking the softer option here, putting her into a Group 2 mares race rather than tackling the big guns in the Makybe Diva Stakes. I think to try and get her confidence up and then try and progress back to some weight for age races. I think she's probably the horse to beat. Obviously, Savatiano's the danger, but I think Arcadia Queen, off that jump out, she's ready to get back to something near her best, and anything near her best would win this race.
Yeah, it's a good point you raised, and I think the stable obviously threw everyone a curveball when they announced that Arcadia Queen was going to go to the Let's Elope, and Perfect Jewel, who we all expected to go to the Let's Elope and tackle all the mares races this spring, she's instead going to be the stable's representative in the Group 1 Makybe Diva Stakes. We'll get into that a little bit later, but you would think that Arcadia Queen at her best would be very, very hard to beat here. As you said, the map is the tricky part with barrier 12, and Savatiano looks to find the lead from barrier 4 with that terrific second up record. But I think the really exciting thing is seeing Arcadia Queen get to a track like Flemington where she's going to get 400 or 500 metres to really kind of go through her gears. And if she's within a few lengths of Savatiano kind of at the 300, it's going to be set up for a really, really hot race. Can't wait to see her go around again. And for those that listened to William Pike throughout the week, he basically said, if we can get Arcadia Queen back to anywhere near her best, she's going to be scary. And he doesn't often say that about a lot of horses. So Tells you just what kind of opinion they've got of this horse, and let's hope she can get back to her best, because we've seen what she's capable of in her 3-year-old year. We'll move ahead to your best value bet of the day, which comes up in race number 7. This is the Makybe Diva Stakes. We're going to get into this in just a tick, but it could be a good segue to head that way anyway. But your best value bet of the day is horse number 15 in the Group 1. It's Princess Jenny at $41. We'll start off with her, and then we'll get into some of the other main runners.
Yeah, I thought Princess Jenny might just be a touch of value. I found this race very, very tough. I was going in circles for the last day and a half trying to do my runner-by-runner preview. I just kept graying myself up there, but I settled that I thought Princess Jenny was definitely worthy of something each way. She ran first up in the Memsey and was about 51 or 100 to $1 or something, and ran really well first up. I reckon it's probably her best first up run that she's probably ever put in. The key with her is her second up record. She's 3 wins from 4 starts. Her only second up failure came, it was actually last prep where it was a Group 2 at the Valley, and for whatever reason, she just didn't take the corner well at all, which is surprising because she's raced there fine before. But I think off that first up run, and if she gets back to the kind of improvement that she can show between her first and second up runs, she's going to be very competitive here and probably outrun her odds. I really wish she'd drawn a barrier, because she draws barrier 12. She's probably going to get back again, so she's going to need a good ride or to show some kind of intent that I don't know that they will, because if she's kind of making a wide run with some of those other more fancied runners, she isn't good enough to go with them really. But if she can kind of slot in midfield somewhere and maybe get a gap somewhere a little bit closer to the rail, I think she's going to improve off that first up run, like I said, and can be somewhere in the finish. You're getting double figures the place, so I think that's probably something you could have something each way on in what is a very tricky Group 1.
Let's get a little bit further into the Group 1, and we'll start off, you've already spoken a touch about it, but we'll start off with your speed map. If you kind of just want to take us through where you see the runners landing. Obviously, the likely leaders look to be Gaylord Shop, but how do you see the race being run? Because there doesn't look an overly fast tempo on paper.
Yeah, I start off my speed up kind of description saying it's messy in one word. So the Gaylord Chop is a kind of designated leader, generally over a little bit further and possibly not first up, but he still has led at 1,600 meters before, and with no other speed on paper, I think he just lobs there from barrier 3. I've got Quick Thinker going forward. He does normally like to race on pace, but I don't know how much intent they're going to show. He's probably got a better gate speed than a lot of them, so he might just end up just off the pace. I think Gadding will be right there on pace as well from a good draw. Lavendi probably just off the midfield. I've got Harlem going a fair bit further forward than he did first up. He kind of just jumped okay and drifted back, but I think there's a real opportunity for them to go forward. Fierce Impact and Dalasan, 2 runners right in the market, probably can take advantage of some solid draws and try and be midfield as well. I've got Perfect Jewel mapped for a bit of a suck run just along the fence there. I think she can be midfield as well. A couple of tricky ones, Associ Bond drawn out wide. They could go forward or back, drawn barrier 16. I wouldn't be surprised if they chance their hand there and go forward. Kingswood Dream maybe tries to sit midfield with cover as well. And then the other ones mainly going back, including some high-profile runners in Russian Camelot and Master of Wine, would have to be worse than midfield there as well.
I'll highlight a few runners or poke and prod you on a few runners, and feel free to add any along the way. Let's start with Master of Wine, because there's been a lot said about Master of Wine and his disappointing run first up in the Winx Stakes, where he, of course, started favourite or close enough to favourite. How do you see him here stepping up to the mile, shifted to Melbourne, Michael Rodd on board?
Yeah, it's interesting, Master of Wine. I think this was always in the back of their mind, but I don't think they were necessarily planning on coming to Melbourne this early. Michael Rodd takes the ride. It was Dwayne Dunn's ride, but unfortunately he's injured himself and probably out for the spring with a vertebrae damage there. So hopefully he gets back okay. I think he's a tough one to assess. I wasn't sacking him off his first up run. I thought maybe, yes, he was a little bit disappointing, but he probably wasn't fit, and he's looking to peak probably for a Caulfield Cup later. And that was a very brutally run race, that Winx Stakes. So he's probably just got found out a little bit with a lack of condition there. I think potentially a softer run race is going to suit Master of Wine. I think a lot of his better runs have come in slowly run races where he can just kind of show that big turn of foot and sprint away from them. Yeah, I found it really tough. I think he's not like, if he was the same price he was in the Wink Stakes around that $6 mark, you could probably say, no, you can't really have him off that price. But he's also not a price where you could say you have to have him on your side there. He's kind of just like a lot of these. I think he's just kind of around that right price, that iffy kind of price around that $10, $11 mark. So I don't have him as a selection, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him improve sharply.
We'll move on to the current favourite for the race. He is, what price have we got him? He's somewhere around $3.80. And this is Russian Camelot we're talking about. Yeah. $3.60, even shorter. So he comes into this first up over the mile, weight for age, Group 1, fresh off a win in the South Australian Derby over 2,500 metres. Is he, or how do you assess his chances? Because that looks awfully short. First attempt at weight for age Group 1 against, some seriously seasoned and well-performed Group 1 horses here. Over the mile, wide barrier, fresh. How do you see his chances?
Yeah, I've seen some, this has divided a lot of opinion. I've seen a few good judges kind of mark him almost even money and say he's a complete moral. This is the only time you're going to get a price about him for the rest of his career. Just take it and, watch him go past them. Other people are saying, no, he's got no chance. So, like a lot of this race, I'm completely on the fence, which is good to have some clarity. But I think he's got the huge hype on him. It's probably, if Master of Wine had a hype on him going into the Wink Stakes, this guy had even more so coming into this race. If you look back and his form over the shorter courses, like he lost first up at 1,400 meters at Flemington, did miss the start that day, but even still, it wasn't a very good race. And then his only other mile form really is at Pakenham, which was nothing more than a trial in a BM64. So I think he's obviously a very, very talented horse, and he is quite versatile. I don't think he has to be, over a trip to win. But I think he's come back very well as well. Like, he should have a bit of residual fitness, and you see some of his jump outs that were over about 1,200 meters, and he was cruising into those jump outs and making, some solid sprinter miler types that were fit and, had race fitness on their side. He was making him look poor, and he hadn't really come off any fitness base too much. So I think he's a really tough one to assess. He could come out and win. I think I'm going to probably take him on at around that 350 price. If he does drift, which I don't know how much he could drift, just because he's got that hype on him and he's got some, some big ratings and strong SPs. I'm not sure how much he'll get out. If he got out to around $5, I'd definitely have to have him on my side. At 350, it's probably just more of a watch.
Couple of others. We spoke quickly, we mentioned it briefly before about Perfect Jewel, how we thought she'd go to the Let's Open, Arcadia Queen would come here. It's the other way around. Perfect Jewel lines up here. Fresh off a win over the shorter distance in her first Melbourne start. Willie Pike, of course, takes the ride here. How do you see her lining up? Because I know quite a bit about this horse, and I was quite excited to see her nominated for this race, because as soon as she won last start, I said, if she steps up, well, inevitably she's going to step up in distance, and I don't see what is going to beat her stepping up over distance, presuming she was going to tackle the mares races. Little did I know she'd come to this race, but I'm excited to see her in. However, I do admit that I thought we'd get more of a price than currently around the $6 quote. How do you see her?
Yeah, I thought she was more than short enough at around that, $5.50, $6 mark. She's got good form, kind of, she's absolutely flying over in WA. I think she went down first up, and then she won a couple over 1,400 and 1,600 meters in a row in WA. She was good first up in the Cochrane, but she beat, Bless Her and She Shall Fly by a length. And, they're not 1,600 meter horses really, but they'd be thousands here. They'd have no hope. The horses she was beating in WA, like, she was knocking off Gadding by a couple of lengths. Gadding's in this race and did win this race last year, but I still don't give him any chance. Funnily enough, old boy Humidor comes out and wins the Fian Stakes last year. She was beating him up in WA, so maybe there's a sliver of kind of form to go off there. I think she gets a good map though from barrier 2. I think she can be in front of quite a few of the main dangers and just kind of suck along behind the pace there and Pike will have no problem getting her out in the Flemington Straight. Whether she's good enough to beat some of these better horses, I don't think so. I don't think she'll run poorly, but I wouldn't have a single figures, I don't think.
What I would say is the best thing about her winning the Cochrane is it might only say she won by a length, but yes, she won by a length. The camera stops on the line, and then when it pans back to her 50 metres after the post, she's about 4 in front. Her final kind of 100 and her work past the post, like we're talking about a pure 1,600 metre horse here, not a 1,200 metre horse. So for her to do that, I thought was really impressive. So I'm really excited to see how she goes, albeit I agree with you. I don't see her kind of being in the same level as some of the better horses in this race. Kingswood Dream and Fierce Impact. How do we see them? We've already mentioned the map for both of those. Of course, Fierce Impact has beaten about a head first up in the Winx Stakes behind Very Elegant. Form lines don't get much better than Very Elegant at the moment. And Kingswood Dream, he ran well first up here as well.
Yeah, I think both are big chances. I've got Fierce Impact on top. I know I said Princess Jenny would be my best value in the race and my best result in the race, but I am going to be having something on Fierce Impact. I don't think he's a proper top liner horse, but you look back through his form and he's just always around the mark and very consistent. And I think that might be enough here. I think his first up run was very good. Yeah, obviously the Very Elegant form is very strong. Kind of ducked back along the inside there as well. He's good at 1,600 meters. He's won at the Track and Trip in the Cantala Stakes. And I think he can, with a bit of intent here, he gets R on board as well, which is a big tick. I think with a bit of intent here, he can settle in front of quite a few of those horses like Master of Wine and Russian Camelot. He should be able to get midfield if he jumps well and kind of uses them up just a touch early. And that's going to be, a really good map for him. So I think he's probably outside of Russian Camelot, who could be anything. He's the horse to beat for sure. Kingswood Dream is a really tough one. Excuse me. They ran him in the PB Lawrence first up and then missed the Memsey, deciding to come here second up. Draws barrier 15, and I don't really know where they're going to go with him because, like you said, Waller horses drawn wide often go back, but this horse has shown that he can settle forward before, albeit that was when he was with Weir. I think he raced over this track and distance and he drew wide and he settled one out, one back in third, I think. So he does have kind of that tactical versatility to go forward, especially in a race with little pace here, but it's a bit tough to know what they're going to do. I think he's probably better over further as well, over 2,000 meters. I think he's probably another one at around that $10 mark. That's the right price. I certainly couldn't talk you out of him. Just another one that's probably well enough found and about that right quote.
Let's quickly sum up this race. I'll throw back to you quickly so you can just give us your thoughts on how you're going to play it overall, and then we'll get on to my best bets in Sydney.
Yeah, so I narrowed it down to a handful of chances. I think Russian Camelot's the deserved favourite, but he's the one you can take on first up. I kind of did it with Surprise Baby last week as well, and that worked out okay. Fierce Impact looks what I've said is the profile horse. He ticks a lot of boxes with his track and distance, kind of wins and just always around that mark at 1,600 meters, brings probably the best lead up from Sydney. So I think he's the one you're going to have something on at around that 550 mark. Kingswood Dream scares me a little bit. Dallasan can win, looks a little bit short, probably wants a faster tempo as well, and was looking for a little bit further this prep. Princess Jenny is one I'm going to have something on at big odds, possibly even get out a little bit in betting late. I think she'll need a good ride, but I think at double figures the place, I think you could definitely have something on her each way. So her number 15, Princess Jenny each way, and number 4, Fierce Impact.
Very good. And as I've said, if you need any other information or any other questions answered, head to beforeyouBet.com.au. You'll find Trent's runner-by-runner guide to the Group 1 Makybe Diva Stakes. Can't wait to watch it. We'll move on to Sydney now and get over to Rosehill, where the track is currently a soft 6. The rail is out in the 6-metre position. But we do have relatively fine weather leading up to race day on Saturday. So we should see that track improve a little bit. Again, there's a lot of races here that are very, very competitive, hard to work out, and a little bit of a dartboard job. But I've made my best bet of the day, race number 4, horse number 5, Masked Crusader. I think I made him my best bet last week or the week before when he was scratched. I'm going to stick with him here. He's currently $2.15 with PlayUp. I wouldn't be surprised if he started in the red, somewhere odds on. Where do we start with him? Well, he ran first up behind Vada over 1,100 metres here at Rosehill on the bog track. It was a heavy 10 that day. He started the odds-on favourite, but he bumped into Vada, who was a race-fit, in-form mare. and she just proved a little bit too good for him, beating him by about half a length. I thought his run was still really good. He was ridden cold, he was ridden patiently, and from all reports from the yard and anyone that was near the track, he wasn't wound up ready to go first up. So I suspect with 4 weeks between runs, he's going to have taken some pretty significant improvement into this. Back onto a firmer surface, I think, is undoubtedly going to help him. Barrier 10's a really interesting one because I think personally we'll see him ridden much more aggressively than we did first up on that heavy track. I think the firming ground, a little bit of extra fitness on his side, I think we'll see him ridden much further forward in the run. And from there, I think he'll be very, very hard to beat. I think this is a Group 1 horse, still racing in a benchmark 88 race. I think the only horse he's got to beat is the top weight for Tuce. She's got to carry a little bit more weight than him, about 3 kilos more than him. She is undefeated first up from a spell, but I just think he's going to have the fitness edge on her. I think he's got the class edge on her. And if he's in front of her, I think she's going to have a tough time running him down. There are a number of very good horses in this race. You could make a case for horses like Hilo, who's trialled really well and has a very good fresh record. But at the end of the day, I just think the best horse in the race is Master Crusader. And I think he's going to atone for that first up defeat. So $2.15 with PlayUp. That is race 4, number 5, Master Crusader. Trent, I know you're a big fan of this horse. Quickly, your thoughts?
Yeah, should be winning. Take it in a double with Arcadia Queen.
I like the confidence. Very good. We'll move on to my best value bet of the day. Now, there were a couple of horses throughout the program that I kind of piqued my interest a little bit. There was one later in the card at around $61, which I might just briefly mention after this. But I've gone with my best value bet of the day, once again in the Highway Handicap, which is race number 2 on the card. We've had a little bit of success in these races over the past 6 weeks or so. So I'm going to stick fat, try and nail another couple of big odds here. The first of those is horse number 4, Bella Star. This horse is from the Wayne Wilkes stable at Taree. Karen McAvoy's booked to ride. Now, this horse has had 2 runs back from a spell. He's been beaten at Coffs Harbour and Newcastle. He's finished midfield in both of those, but I think the key is looking at his record here. He's had 5 starts first up for a win and 2 placings, and then 5 starts second up for just 1 minor placing. However, you look at his third up record, and he's 2 from 2 undefeated. So I think he's had his 2 kind of blowout runs to get him right. They send him straight to town in a race that looks like they've targeted to my eye. Karen McAvoy booked for the ride. That's a strong booking for a stable like this in town. I think he does need the firmer ground, so hopefully the track is probably either on the better side of soft or a good 4 at this stage. And I think with around $17 or $18, he's worth the bet, keeping in mind that I think he's ready to go third up from a spell. The other horse I'm going to have something on is a horse I actually backed first up, and that is horse number, if I can find him, horse number 10, Harbouring. He ran first up at Taree. He was double figure odds. He was about 20 to 1, and I had something on him that day, and I thought his run was actually fairly good. Now, the form guide will tell you he finished 9th of 14, beaten 3.5 lengths, but I think his run was full of merit. He was first up off of a fairly long spell. And if you go back to a little bit earlier in his career, this horse was running very well in races like this in town. He had 2 runs in similar races to this last preparation. He didn't come up. He was sent for a spell. And as I said, he returned first up at Taree with an apprentice on board. First up off 1 trial. So I think he will improve with that run under the belt. Whether he now needs another run is the issue. He may still not be ready, but we're getting around $34 to find out. I think he's a horse that has the ability, and I think the step up in distance is a positive for him. And we might just see him start to kind of find his form again this preparation. So with $34 on offer, I'm going to have something small on number 10, Harbouring. So overall, my best value bet of the day, it's race number 2. That is the Highway Handicap, and we're on we're on horses 4 and 10 at big odds. Trent, I've got a question for you. This is just quickly throwing back to Flemington, because I think there's a complete moral on the card, just while I find this other one at 60 to 1 that I just alluded to before. I think there is a complete moral on the card at Flemington on Saturday. And it's a horse you and I know very well. It's race number 6. It is the Sofitel. And the horse that will be winning is horse number 14, Windstorm. He ran an enormous race first up over 1,100 metres, distance short of his best. Steps up to 1,400 metres. That's what he needs. William Pike back on board. Replaces the claiming apprentice, Liam Riordan. Drawn ideally, barrier 3. Tell me how this thing doesn't win.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a little bit just sick from launching at him last start when he got out to about $4.50. And with a bit of intent, he would have won there. But I agree, 1,400 metres is really going to suit here. Pikey goes on, drops down to 56 kilos. Barrier 3 is probably not the perfect barrier for him. I probably prefer a touch out, but he's got a long straight to weave his way through, and that's what Pikey does best. I think he probably rides best at Flemington as well because it's less complicated. He can just weave his way through the field that he's so good at doing. I am keen on him. I'm definitely going to be backing him. I think the other one that you can have something on in that race is number 5, Shahitzi, at about $18. He ran pretty well, I thought, first up in the Regal Roller. I think the form out of that race is solid, even though Age of Chivalry is a bit disappointing last week. But the key to him is second up. He's 5 wins from 7 starts when second up. He'll be right on pace. I think he's a big price to have as the other play in that race. But definitely, I will be going again with Windstorm, and I think I've tipped a couple of other Pike runners on the day as well. So I'm hoping he has a big day at HQ, because otherwise we might be a bit cast.
There you go, punters. There's your treble for the weekend. Arcadia Queen into Masked Crusader into Windstorm. That should give you a decent little fill up. Now, the other horse I was just referencing at Randwick, at Rosehill, which I thought was a huge price, comes up in race number 8. It's the Group 2 Scirocco Stakes. It's a very competitive field, but have something on horse number 10, Evelina, for Chris Lees and Jim Byrne. Her run first up in the Toy Show Quality was very good. She was never really clear. She was only beaten 2.5 lengths by Sweet Deal. That's very good form. And her second up record reads 3 starts, 3 wins. So barrier 1, 54 kilos. There's a lot to like. And you're getting 61 fat ones. So race 8, number 10, Evelina. Mark that one down. Trent, we'll start to wrap this up because we're probably already running over time. Any other thoughts to leading into Saturday?
No, I think that definitely covers everything. And yeah, we'll look forward to a good day of racing.
Perfect, guys. Head to beforeyoubet.com.au. As I've said, you'll find our race-by-race previews for Rosehill and Flemington on Saturday. You'll find Trent's runner-by-runner guide to the Group 1 Makybe Diva Stakes. We'll try and throw the links to all those articles below this video in the description. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help us out there. We look forward to seeing you all again next week. Have a great weekend.